Hey, hello everyone. So in the previous session, we have discussed about Tomcat application server, okay, and we integrated Apache and Tomcat. We understood the how rewrite rule and proxy module works. So in the last session, we have set up the front end part, like the HTTP request will land to the HTTP service, and then the application is deployed on the Tomcat side, which is our Java application, and then Apache will rewrite the URLs and serve the application which is on the Tomcat. So two components we already have discussed, and so let's understand this quickly. So here is the first instance, that is Apache HTTP instance, which is running on port number 80. So from the internet, whenever the traffic will come, it will first land to the Apache HTTP, and then the second component, second service which we have discussed and configure is Apache Tomcat. So this service by default runs on port number 8080. So this way, these two services we have integrated with the help of two modules. One is mod underscore rewrite and mod underscore proxy. So these two modules we have integrated into Apache, and we have performed the URL redirection. So now and the Java application is deployed in Tomcat, and HTTP is just serving the front end part. So this way we understood in the previous session. So now in this session we are going to talk about MySQL database, and we are going to understand the terminology, how we are going to install database, and what is the role of DBMS or database management system. Second, how we are going to integrate or divert or maybe send the queries to the MySQL database from the application, whereas our application is deployed under the Tomcat, which is our Java app. And for example, if that application is talking to the database for storing the data, so how that communication works, the entire procedure we are going to discuss here and also implement. So let's understand, like MySQL is an open source relational database management system, which is our DBMS, that uses structured query language. So in general we are referring it as SQL queries, and these queries are we are executing from the function perspective, like whenever we want to insert any data, or maybe we want to select any data from the database. Okay, so select, insert, update, delete, these are the basic query operation which we are talking here. So that is nothing but your structured query language, SQL queries, for accessing and managing databases. It is one of the most popular databases in the world, known for its speed, reliability, and ease of use. MySQL is commonly used in web applications, so this is widely used in industry. There are so many applications built in different programming languages that uses the MySQL. So we need to understand conceptually, like even if you are using the Java application or maybe PHP based application or any application, the piece of this database can be a common. So for example, if you have multiple application stack here, so this is something which is Java app, this is PHP app. We are just understanding from the usage point of view, or maybe Python. So if I need any database at the back end, I can use MySQL as a database, and all this application can send the data to database by using some kind of MySQL connectors. MySQL connector, which is also called as database drivers, okay, in a generic term. So it is possible that you can use MySQL as a backend database for a different type of applications, okay. So consider a scenario where company wants to manage its employee record. This is just an example to understand what is the use case of the MySQL, as we already using many applications on the internet, maybe e-commerce applications or social media applications or maybe government apps, right? So everywhere you will find the database in the backend. So this scenario is particular to the one of the employee management, where the employee records, payroll and project assignments. So MySQL can be used to create a centralized database system where employee tables stores employee details like name, employee ID, department, contact information, etc. Payroll table contains payroll information such as salaries, bonuses, deductions, etc. And the project table keeps track of projects, assigned employees, project deadlines, etc. So the HR department can use this database to efficiently manage and retrieve employee information, process payrolls, and track the project progress. So this is one of the scenario which we have discussed, like how the MySQL works. And whenever we are designing any application architecture, we have to also structure the database related activities. So which comes like what are the tables required, what are the fields which required in the particular table. So that all thing comes when you are designing the architecture or planning the architecture for any project. So here, just a second. All right. So whenever we are talking about the MySQL, let's understand like how it this program works. So take a simple example. We are using Linux operating system. This Linux can be any flavor. Like right now we are using Rocky Linux. There may be Ubuntu or RHEL, Red Hat Enterprise Linux, or maybe CentOS, which is Community Enterprise Operating System, which is again a free version of RHEL. You can consider that. So we have a Linux operating system. On top of it, we have installed MySQL service. So MySQL is a service or a program which comes when you are installing on Linux server, and by default this MySQL service works on port number 3306. So this is the default port for the MySQL. This is default port for the MySQL. When we install the MySQL service in Linux, usually this is the main configuration file, right? my.cnf, which is the main configuration file for the different parameters of MySQL we can configure in this file. For example, the port, or maybe on which IP address you want to listen, user, group, etc. So this particular file responsible for defining the main configurations of the MySQL. So there are different sets of parameters which we can set. The next is the way we will define the logs for MySQL. Okay, for example, if we are using /var/log and MySQL.log file, so you can store the logs in this particular file, and you will see different messages, errors or warnings, okay, with respect to the MySQL service in this file. So this way we are just understanding it. So whenever application, any application, like we have Tomcat application, and this Tomcat service is actually connecting to the MySQL. So on port number 3306 it will try to connect. So this database connection properties usually we define in the code, or maybe in the application database connection properties. So in this scenario, again on Linux, Tomcat is a service. On top of Tomcat we have deployed one of the application, like examples. It can be anything like slash, maybe any project which you are deploying in the Java. So slash example is a kind of a front end and wanted to connect to the database to store the data. So database connection properties are always mentioned in this file somewhere. So conceptually we are understanding database connection properties are written in the code, and then according to the database connection properties, this application is trying to connect to the MySQL. So database connection properties can have 4 to 5 components, like DB host. Let's understand this. DB host equals to, then DB, for example, user equals to DB pass equals to DB port, like this. So what does it mean? Whenever the developer develop any application, and in that scenario if he wants to connect the database connection properties are always set like this. So it requires DB host, for example the IP address, or the host name of this particular server, MySQL server, the user which is responsible to access the database. In this scenario, one more important component is database name equals to. So in the connector properties, usually developer defines all these values, like what is the database name, what is the database host, then what is the user who is going to access this database, what is the password for it, and the port number. So this connection, due to this connection properties, right, it actually connects to the database. Maybe on the some database server you will find the port number is different. So the DB connection properties are always set according to the configuration which you have done. So this is the basic fundamentals whenever any application. So if you want to take a real-time example, you are registering on the Facebook app, and in that app you are actually sending the data. So we also having some internal applications. Let's see that. So here as an example, if I go and check for even for student management system, and when you are, if I access any course, for example I am accessing placement assistance and guidance section. So this information is coming from the database. So somewhere in the MySQL, right, these properties are being set, and there are different tables and different fields which are defined for those tables are stored in the database. So this is the example. Any applications which we are accessing having the registration forms, or maybe contact forms, these applications are also having the database in the backend. So MySQL works very well with such type of systems. Now let's understand what are the different versions of MySQL. So MySQL Community Edition, which is a free open source version of MySQL. This is very important to understand for any company when you are joining, and if you wanted to suggest or maybe put the database, you can definitely go with the MySQL, which is community version, and this edition is absolutely free. It includes all the core feature of MySQL and is suitable for small to medium sized applications. Non-commercial projects, small to medium sized businesses and educational purpose. So that is the one which is suitable for. But many enterprise companies are using MySQL Community Edition without any issues. There are advantages of it, like free to use, large community support and frequent updates. Okay, so this edition is very well used in the market. The next MySQL edition is coming as enterprise. So MySQL Enterprise Edition includes additional features aimed at improving performance, security and manageability. So it also provides enterprise level support from Oracle, the company that owns the MySQL. Then it is suitable for large scale mission critical application and enterprise environment where high availability or scalability and security are paramount. So what it means, like you have a mission critical application. Take an example of banking domain, like the banks are having critical system where customer daily transactions are dependent, right? In that scenario, you will not take a chance by going with community edition, which is a free edition, because there will be no support from the vendor, from the Oracle in this scenario. So in such cases, companies are preferring to go with the enterprise edition, where there is a support, there is features like high availability. So one goes down, even if one goes down, the other database serves the request. Scalability, like you can deploy the multiple databases or multiple instances of databases, right? So this way we can manage the enterprise edition in mission critical apps. The third edition which we are talking about, the MySQL cluster. So MySQL cluster is designed for application that require high availability and scalability. It provides a distributed multi-master database with no single point of failure. So usually this multi-master concept comes in database when we are talking about MySQL. Usually what happens is just all right. So when we are talking about the MySQL, usually master-slave combination is one of the core concept with the MySQL. So when you have one MySQL server and this instance you have installed on this particular server. So for example, MySQL, you have installed this service. Now this is acting as a master database. This is acting as a master database. You can have multiple slave servers. Now what does it mean? I can have one more or few more servers like this. I will install the MySQL service on all the servers. And now I can sync one of the database, like here for example I have a database called IBG app. This is the name of the database, IBG app. So I can sync this database on all these three nodes, and these three nodes can acting as a slave node, right? MySQL slave nodes, and this is the master node. This is the master node. Now the all write operation, right? All the write operation is happening on this particular node, and you can set up the slave servers to gather the, or maybe to for the read operation or select queries. So for example, application wanted to read some data. Now application can read from either this server or maybe this server or maybe this server. Take an example, like this is one of the reporting application which is collecting the information from the database and showing on the portal. So for reporting it require a lot of select queries, it will perform the read operation on the database. So when the multiple reads are happening, it may impact the MySQL performance. So in that scenario, you can have multiple slaves and then configure it. Now when we are talking about the third edition, that is MySQL cluster, which provides multi-master database with no single point of failure. What does it mean? Even if this server goes down, okay, this is our master server, even if this server goes down, I have one more master server, which is again a master node, and these two masters are syncing with each other. So what it will do when this particular instance is completely went down, either service is crashed or maybe this virtual machine or server is crashed, right? So I will have the other server with other instance running, having all the databases synced, and then these multiple masters can be configured in the cluster mode. So MySQL cluster is usually used for that purpose. So this edition coming with the additional functionalities, and then you can have the replication or syncing with the slave nodes accordingly. So this way also you can design the MySQL structure. Now whatever we are doing, we are actually doing on top of the Linux operating system, which is our Rocky Linux, right? So we are installing the MySQL services, then creating the databases, and then we can create like this. Okay, we can create the slave instances, etc. So we understood that if we are going for the enterprise companies also, MySQL is one of the very popular and suitable database system. Now let's understand how to install this service on Linux. So if you are using Rocky Linux 9 OS particularly, you have to install one package, which is the library nc ncurses -compat-lib. So let's do this. So this command install necessary compatibility libraries that MySQL needs to run on Rocky Linux 9. We are using Rocky Linux 8 version, still we'll try to just deploy it. Alright. So when we are talking about any dependencies, these are the packages required for the for the program to run. Okay, any service which we are deploying, like MySQL is a kind of a service, a kind of a program. So it requires certain dependencies to run on the Linux system. The next command is like this commands creates a group named MySQL and user named MySQL who belongs to that group. -r option creates a system account, and -s, that is bin false, means the user cannot log in. So this is service account. We don't want to give him a shell for login. That is why the shell which is set /bin/false. Otherwise this shell is like /bin/bash. So we are just making it disable for the user MySQL. Okay, so by using this command we can do this. So first add the group. So group add MySQL, then add the user. So what does this command means? Like user add, make MySQL as a primary group, then disable the shell, and the username will be MySQL. So if I do id MySQL, I can see that the user is created and the group of that user is also MySQL. Next, just go to the software directory and download the MySQL community version. So you will see this particular version available on official website of MySQL. So I'm right now directly executing this. We are going to install MySQL 8.0.31. If you wanted to see like from where it is coming, so you can simply go to MySQL download and community servers, and you will just redirect to the website, official website, where you can find the version which you want. For example, if I wanted to go with 8.0.37, okay, for the Linux operating system. So Linux generic you can select, and if you wanted to select a specific OS version is okay, otherwise you can simply get it here. So this is 32-bit version of this software or MySQL service, and you can see here MySQL 8.0.37, which is the current version for 64-bit operating systems. So this is the package which we want, because our operating system is 64-bit operating system. So that is why we are going to like click on download, for example. It may ask for you to log in, otherwise you can simply click here, no thanks. So right click and copy link. So it will copy the link, and then by using wget you can download from the server. So here like I can simply copy, you can see that 8.0.37 MySQL version, right, in the compressed form of tar.xz. Alright, we already have downloaded version 8.0.30, per slightly lower than 8.0.37, but that is okay. Otherwise you can get the latest also and use it. Now clear the screen. Once the software is downloaded, you can see here the MySQL software we have downloaded by using wget command, and now we will have to extract that software. So let's follow the next command. So tar-xvf and then package name, whatever the downloaded package file, okay, we have to append. So x will do the extract. Tar is for the tar format. Xz type of format can also be extracted by using -x option. So just execute this. You can see that. So it is like you are doing the unzipping of file. Once that is done, copy the extracted MySQL directory to /opt and rename it to MySQL for easier access. So for example, we are copying this directory, whatever the extracted folder which is displayed under /software, we are copying it to /opt/MySQL. So we will manage all our services under /opt, like /opt/Apache, /opt/Tomcat, /opt/MySQL, like that. So this is the structure we always follow when we are working in a production environment, real-time environment. So this is extracted. After extracted, you can see that the directory has been displayed here. So what we are doing now, we are just copying this directory as a /opt/MySQL. So you can see like this. Enter. Once that is done, you must see MySQL as a folder, as a directory under /opt. Okay. Now we already have two services installed, Apache HTTP and Tomcat also. Let's move to the next step. Navigate to the MySQL directory, create a directory named MySQL-files, change its owner to MySQL user and group, and set its permission to 750, which is owner can read, write and execute, group can read and execute. So what we are doing, this is necessary step in the on official documentation also of MySQL. This is required, so let's go and do that. So cd/opt MySQL. If you see, there are other files available in this folder already. So we are creating one more directory called MySQL-files, then changing the owner of that particular directory to MySQL. You can check now ls-l. So MySQL files we have created, and the owner and group is also MySQL. And permission to that particular directory we are setting 750, which means that owner, that is MySQL, should be able to read, write and execute. So in this case we have a MySQL user account on the system created to manage the MySQL service. So don't get confused between the words. Okay, here the MySQL is a user account, and which is owning all the file folders under /opt, like that. Okay, that you can set. Initialize, the next step, initialize the MySQL database. This sets up the necessary data files and directories. the hyphen user equals to MySQL ensures that MySQL runs as the MySQL user. So now this is one time activity, like you have to initialize the database. In this step, this is very important and critical. In this step you will get temporary root password which is needed to log in first time to MySQL. So just keep that track of the password which will get generated. So now you are already in this /opt/MySQL, and here we are executing the command bin /MySQLd --initialize --user equals to MySQL. Let's do that. So you can see the process is happened, and a temporary password is generated for root at localhost. Now this password is very important, which we would require to log into the MySQL instance. So I'm just saving this password to one of the file. So I'm just keeping in one of the notepad. All right, so I've done it. Even you can just print this way. So in the history command you will find this password. Okay, so this way also on the system, on the shell itself, you can manage it. So I just put it hash in front of it, so it will not execute anything, rather it will just keep that as a command. Okay, so when you are adding the hash in front of it, it is not executable. Okay, so now we have a password which we are going to use to log into the MySQL first time. So start the MySQL in a safe mode in the background. Safe mode is a way to start MySQL with some safety checks and logging. So this is one of the step which you can perform. And now we are starting the MySQL in a safe mode. You can see that the /opt/MySQL and then some error file is printed. Let's move further. Now we are going to create a service which is responsible to start and stop the MySQL services. So open a new file to create systemd service, because in Linux we are using systemd services to manage the other programs. So which helps manage MySQL as a service on the system and add the following content to mysql.service file. So let's create this file in the location like /etc/systemd/system/mysql.service. So with the help of VI text editor we are editing. Now this is the new file. So copy the content and you can see that we have just added the summary where we are defining like how MySQL service should get started. So the default file, it is picking like /etc/my.cnf. As we discussed earlier, this is the main configuration file for the MySQL related parameters. Okay, so in this scenario we have saved the file, and let's understand like unit parameter describes the service with a brief description and dependencies. After equals to network.target, indicating that MySQL should start after the network is available. Service defines how the service runs. So in the above scenario, like MySQL service will get started after network. So when the server get restarted, first network service will start and then MySQL service. So this type of parameters we are learning in Linux, and conceptually understanding like how Linux works with the different type of programs. In the service defines how the service runs, like type is simple, execute start like equals to /opt. So this command to start MySQL pointing to the configuration file, run as the MySQL user, run as MySQL group, automatically restart if the service stop, and then specifies that the service should start in the multi-user target. So multi-user target is nothing but in the text mode also and in the graphical mode also. So install this particular parameter defines, or section defines like to start this service in multi-user mode. Once that is done, once the file is ready, you can enable it by using systemctl command. So enable MySQL service to start automatically at boot time and start it. So let's do this. Systemctl enable. So we are already logged in as a root we don't require sudo. So I'm just removing it, and you can see enable MySQL, then start MySQL, and you can check the status of the service by using systemctl status MySQL command, and you can see it is active and running. So this way we successfully started the MySQL services, and it's up and running. As I said, like the default port for MySQL is 3306. After service start, you should see that port in the listen state. So here you can see 3306 port is in listen state. As we already learned that every service in Linux or in technology or in networking, right, associated with unique port number, and that port number is always in a listen state, or should be in a listen state whenever you are communicating to that service. So right now I can see that MySQLD is program is running, and the port is in listen state. Once services are up and running, you can go to the MySQL directory and try to log in with the password which we have copied. So I'll just check the history first, where I have executed this password. So I'll copy this password. So MySQL -u root -p, this is the command to log into the MySQL shell. I pasted the password which I copied and enter. So right now I can see the root at localhost denied something. Let's try once again. There should not be typo errors. So I pasted again, and I can I am able to log into the MySQL shell successfully. So here I can run some commands like show databases. Now here you will see that you must reset your password using alter user statement before executing this statement. What does it mean? The password which we have entered is a temporary password to log in first time into MySQL. That is why it is mentioned in the above. Now after login in, change the root user password to this particular password. You can set it any complex password for your setup. This new password is what you will use to log in as a root user from now on. What does it mean? MySQL instance, this MySQL service is having a root user account, which is a system, or which is a administrator for the entire database system. So this root user account we are going to use to manage this MySQL service. Okay, and for the other applications we are going to create a different users and granting the permission to them for a different databases, but the root will be the administrator to manage this database. So set any complex password, and you can see it is, the query is okay, and we are able to set it. So this command refreshes the MySQL server's privileges, ensuring that the changes you made to the user permission take effect immediately. So this is the general command which you have to execute, flush privileges. Now here we can create a new database. Let's see that. So you can see now I am executing show databases command, and you can see that IBJ app database is created in MySQL. Okay, so we are taking, or we are just structuring one example where we are going to create a database, then user, and we are granting permission to that. So whenever you want to create that for any application, you should be able to do. So create a new MySQL user named IBG app with the password. This user will be used to interact with the IBG app database. So create user, this is the query. This is MySQL query we are executing, like create user IBG app at localhost. What does it mean? This permission is only granted when the user is logged in from the localhost. Okay, if anyone is trying from the remote server from the different server, it will not allow. This condition will not satisfy. Okay, because IBG app @localhost defines that you should be able to log in, or you should log in from the local host only, from this host only. Okay, so let's set this user, create a user IBG app at localhost identified by the password which we have set. The next is give the IBG app user full permission to do anything with the IBG app database with grant option allows this user to grant permission to others as well. So now grant statement we are passing. What does it mean? Grant all the privileges on this particular database IBGF dot star, all the tables of this particular database. To whom? To IBG app at localhost user account with grant option. You can see the query is okay. So now IBG app user will be able to perform any queries on IBG app database. The name of user and the database is same in this example, so don't get confused. Flush the privileges and quit from the MySQL. So as you are able to see that this command lists all the network connections and listening ports on your server. It helps you verify that MySQL is running and listening on its ports, usually 3306. So you can use this netstat-ntp. You already have seen that 3306 is in listen state. We are able to access the MySQL. Now once the MySQL database is being created and user is also created and granted permission, you can cross verify by testing, like instead of root now IBG app, the username -p to prompt the password I am entering, and I am able to successfully log in with the user, newly created user IBG app. Also I am able to access the database because the root has granted me the permission to access the IBG app database. So I can use this database. I can, now there are no any tables, so you will not see anything, empty set, but yes, I can access, or maybe IBG app user is able to access the database which is IBG app. So quit from the MySQL shell, coming back to our Linux shell, and now we are going to integrate Tomcat with MySQL. We need a MySQL connector. We already have understood conceptually like why this integration is required. So whenever Tomcat application where the Java applications or Java apps are installed, they are going to send the queries to MySQL database, and in that scenario Tomcat should be able to connect to MySQL by using MySQL connector. So this command installs the MySQL connector for Java using yum package manager. This connector allows Java applications like those running on Tomcat to connect to MySQL database. The specific version being installed is 8.0.30. So you can see the command yum space install space the URL of MySQL connector Java. So let's try to install this. So I'm directly executing, so yum will perform, get this package. You can see it's MySQL connector Java. Say yes, and it is completed. Once the connector package is installed, this is RPM package we installed, right? So copy the MySQL connector jar file from its installation location, which is /usr/share/java, to the lib directory of your Tomcat installation, which is opt tomcat lib. Why? Because this Tomcat will follow all the libraries from this location. So what we are going to do, we are going to copy the connector from the default installation path libraries to Tomcat installation library path. This makes the connector available to Tomcat, so it can use it to connect to MySQL. This is very simple. So what we are doing, we are copying this connector from the default location. So this jar file is nothing but the connector package, which is also a MySQL driver, and we are copying it to /opt. You can see here. So we are copying /usr/share/java MySQL connector jar to /opt/tomcat lib/MySQL connector java.jar. Once that is done, you will see this library is now available. So just list it, and you can see there are multiple jars available. These are nothing but the library for the different functionality. So we have MySQL connector java.jar also. So successfully we have installed the connector and also deployed to the Tomcat libraries. Now just go once, stop and start the Tomcat. So here I'm just doing the shutdown, so /shutdown.sh. so stopping the Tomcat and again starting the Tomcat. We are already in opt Tomcat bin, so directly we are executing the commands like this. Run the startup script to start, that we already have done. Now the jar file is successfully copied to the Tomcat location. Let's create a JSP page to test database connectivity. So open the dbtest.jsp file. So we are just going to create one JSP page where we are going to write one sample code of Java, and there we are defining the database connection properties just to ensure that our Tomcat application is communicating with the MySQL. So whenever the developer will define the database connection properties and it will send the queries to MySQL, it should work. So this setup ensures that everything works as expected. Now open the dbtest.jsp file located in examples directory of the Tomcat web apps folder using VIT editor. This file will be used to test the connection to the MySQL database. This JSP, which is Java Server Pages code, will try to connect to MySQL database named IBG app and display a message indicating whether the connection was successful or not. Okay, so in this code it is written like that. So I'm just going to create this file, okay, under /opt/tomcat/webapps examples and JSP, because this app is already deployed and accessible to us. We are able to access examples app, and we are also able to access the JSP pages over there. So inside this JSP directory, I am creating one file called dbtest.jsp. In Linux, you can directly go and edit the file like this. Okay, so let's copy this code. So what is important to understand here, let's save this file. I'm using VIM, which is improved version of text editor, where we can see the Java syntax, coding syntax also. Okay, so in the color format you can see this. So here the code started. This is head statement, for example. It's body. Now if you see carefully, JDBC is a connector type. It says MySQL connect to the localhost 3306/IBGA. So the database name is IBGA. Next is connection equals to driver manager, and then URL where the username is IBGA and the password which we have created for this user. So DB host, DB port, DB name, then DB user, then DB password. These are the important structure. Then if it is successfully connected, if it is able to log in, it will give us the message like successfully connected to MySQL server using TCP/IP. If it is not able to connect, it will give us the message like unable to connect to the database. So let's save this file and try to access this dbtest.jsp page from our URL. So open your web browser and go to the URL like http your public IP address examples and jsp/dbtest.jsp. In this scenario, this will load the dbtest.php, which will attempt to connect to the MySQL database and display whether the connection was successful or not. So let's do this. So our IP address is 192.168.1.39 slash, you can put like this, /examples JSP and dbtest.jsp. So right now you can see that successfully connected to MySQL server using TCP/IP. So we are able to connect. Now let's take an example. I'm stopping the MySQL service, systemctl stop MySQL. In case if service is stopped, it should not be able to connect to the database. Let's see this. So we can just cross verify whether the connections are properly working or this test is successfully executed. So So I'm stopping the MySQL service and we'll see that whether it is able to connect or not. So it's going on. All right, you can check the status. So currently, failed, so it is not active. Just refresh it. So I'll just take it to the incognito window. It looks like the service stop operation got failed. We'll check the processes are running or not, and we can, okay, so this processes are running, so it is not clean stop. So I'll just kill this process. Yeah, so there are no processes running right now, and let's try to access it once again. So you can see that unable to connect to database because services are stopped, it is killed. Okay, no processes are running with respect to the MySQL. Now let's go and try to start this once again. Systemctl start MySQL. Check the status. Right now I can see it is successfully started. Just refresh the browser page and you can see it is successfully connected to the database. Now even if you have put a wrong password or something in the file, it will not connect. So database connection property should match with the details which you have entered. So suppose if I, for the testing purpose, changing the name to something else, 123 IBG app 123, the username I have put it wrong, and I'll try to access it once again. You will see that it is unable to connect. Why? Because the username is wrong, is not able to connect to the database. So successfully we are able to test that Tomcat is talking to the MySQL database using MySQL connector, okay, which is a MySQL Java MySQL connector. And this way, now in the code, whenever developer defines the MySQL database connection properties and write the code with different queries which are required to process the different operations at the database level, it will work. So this is how the 3-tier architecture, which we have deployed for any application which is having the Java as a programming platform and MySQL as a database. We can set up the application like this. So final outcome is, by following these steps, you have set up an integrated environment where Apache HTTP server acts as a front end handling HTTP requests. Apache Tomcat runs Java web application and connects to the MySQL database, and MySQL serves as the backend database for storing application data. So this setup is typical for enterprise application hosting, providing a robust and scalable environment for running web application with reliable database backend. So there are many such applications on the internet are already running on this 3-tier architecture, and we have successfully built this environment so that we can deploy any Java based application on this particular server. The one example is in the software repository. If you go, you will find one war file which is the workstation application war file for this to deploy on the Tomcat. This is a Java based application. So for the testing purpose we can go and deploy it from the Tomcat manager panel. So I'm just going to 139:8080, opening the manager app. Now on the when you are working in a production environment, usually this GUI is by default disabled, this manager app is disabled, and developers or maybe administrators or middleware application engineers are deploying the applications like war files from the backend only. So whenever we are deploying such war files, they are going and stored under slash web apps directory, so that we are going to see. From the front end, how you can deploy is you can just select the war file to upload. So in this scenario, I'm just selecting a war file, for example. You can see that workstation war is selected. Click on deploy. You can see the message OK. Once that deployment is done, you will see that /opt Tomcat and web apps and workstation. This you have to put a proper name whenever you are deploying this application. So here we can rename it also. So I'm just moving it workstation /opt Tomcat web apps workstation 1.war to /opt Tomcat web apps workstation dot war. So now we have the file called workstation.war, which we have deployed, and this application is ready to access. Now let's go back and you will just see this. We have an application deployed which is workstation. I'm just opening it and you can see this. Our server is able to run this app which is built in Java successfully. Now I am able to execute this application on the default Tomcat URL, but right now from the 39 perspective, the redirection is happening to /examples. Now what we can do is we can simply redirect this app by changing Apache configuration. So opt apache conf httpd.conf. Here we have written the rewrite rule that anything which is coming you redirect to /example. So instead of /example, now I have an app called workstation, and this workstation app is actually available at the Tomcat server. So whenever Apache will try to serve that, it should work. So opt apache bin restart once again, because you have edited the Apache main configuration file. Now let's go and put the IP address in the browser. We need to refresh it. 39. Just take it and put it in incognito mode, or maybe you have to clear the cache, and you can see that I am able to access my application on /workstation. So what Apache is doing, Apache is rewriting the URL to /workstation, and this proxy pass is actually serving the request from the Tomcat. Okay, it is redirecting to the Tomcat, and from Tomcat it is taking response and going back. So this way many applications on the internet are deployed in real-time environment. Now this application is something to add a workstation, which we are not going to see. Okay, this is how we understood like how the 3-tier architecture works. In Linux we have deployed this setup successfully, and you can practice it. To understand it better, you need to repeatedly do this setup. You have to perform this at least 3 to 4 times with the configuration and understanding of each parameter. So it will be very easy, because once you get familiar with the process, it will definitely be very easy to deploy. So it's not difficult first time whenever you are seeing such type of setup, because these are a mission critical and enterprise level configurations. So do not get confused with the concepts. Okay, these are very simple structures. One by one you have to go, like role of HTTP, role of Tomcat, and role of MySQL, and the integration part, and then you have deployed one Java application. So whenever you are part of the team where you are responsible for managing the infrastructure, maybe you will come across such type of setup where you will have to create this 3-tier architecture and deploy the Java applications. And you can deploy multiple Java applications on the same setup, okay, having the different databases for different applications, okay. So that way it works. Thanks a lot. In the next session we'll come up with new topic and something which is exciting, right? Thanks a lot. See you.